Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to a special edition of FBTV as we are covering the bracket reveal for the college football playoff in the year of our Lord 2031. I am Randy Sledge, bringing it to you from the FBTV studios, and boy, do we have a doozy for you. Let's get right into it. Let's rip it right off. Let's look at our rankings we had going into Conference Championship Saturday. The number one Troy Trojans, as we saw on FBTV, as App State managed to take them down in a tightly contested battle. All the underlined and bolded teams you see here all competed in conference championships this past weekend. And man, there are quite a few teams on the bubble that were facing unranked opponents. We have Clemson, who faced an unranked Georgia Tech. We have Ole Miss facing an unranked Texas. We had Wisconsin facing an unranked USC. And a whole lot could happen. A lot of teams on the bubble, especially if they were to lose, or a lot of teams that weren't playing that could be knocked out if those unranked teams prevailed. Looking at Clemson and Ole Miss, they were in the danger zone if they were to lose. Georgia Southern, SMU, and especially North Carolina, all on the bubble, possibly even on the outside looking in, giving the landscape. Baylor and Kansas were in a win-and-in scenario pretty much based on the layout. And then we have Charlotte at number 14, could make some waves if they were able to get the job done. So let's look at the bracket as how it was last week. We had 6 Sun Belt teams. You know we like to see that here on FBTV. 6 Sun Belt teams all in the bracket. But as we've seen in the past, they really like to shift those teams around even if they don't play. And certainly South Alabama, the victim of that all those years ago, getting shuffled down a spot and missing out on the playoff after not playing a game. Absolutely brutal. We will see if similar things happen here. We had a Sun Belt matchup between Georgia Southern and South Alabama, and quite the matchups all across the board. So, whole lot in that bracket last week, but now let's see what happened over the weekend with our conference championship game results. As we saw here on FBTV, App State took down Troy in quite the fight. Hell of a game. And Coach Bubba Gump got his first ever Sun Belt Conference Championship, winning 35-28. So App State certainly an auto bid there. Looking to the ACC, Clemson took care of business against Georgia Tech and will also very likely get an auto bid, if not a bye, as they took down Georgia Tech. Similar story in the Big Ten as Wisconsin defeated USC 28-17. They also are certainly locked in, as we have those 3, App State, Clemson, and Wisconsin, who are all certainly in, just given their ranking and their conference title. But otherwise, it's all up in the air as we see Charlotte took down Rice as they are keeping their title hopes alive. And then number 16, Kansas, did defeat Baylor 27-24. Kansas hoping to get in and hoping that there was no nonsense down below, or hopefully there was some nonsense. But we had number 20, Bowling Green, take care of business against Buffalo. But the big one is Texas took down number 8, Ole Miss 31-23. So will Ole Miss be knocked out? Will there be any SEC representation in the bracket? Let's find out as we head to the bracket. We will start off with our automatic bids, our 5 highest ranked conference champions, and then go through the rest of the bracket in seed order. Starting with the number 1 overall seed and the number 1 team in the nation, which is the Appalachian State Mountaineers. What a season for Coach Bubba Gump and those Mountaineers. Certainly a lot of trials and tribulations for that team, but they are currently on top of the college football world and look to add a national championship to that trophy case that already has the Sun Belt Championship trophy in it from this season. What a ride from Coach Gump. What a team. I will unfortunately say Coach Gump runner-up in the National Coach of the Year behind the Charlotte head coach, which, if you ask me, it's a load of bullshit. But anyway, we move on to the number 2 seed, which is Wisconsin, the number 3 ranked team, which means the number 2 team in the country will be hosting a playoff game here. So Wisconsin at number 3 in the Rose Bowl. The 3rd seed here will be Clemson as the number 6 ranked team. Clemson, obviously, as we stated earlier, defeating Georgia Tech in that ACC Conference Championship game. Our last first round bye in the 2031 college football playoff will be Charlotte. Those Miners are going crazy. The fans are going nuts over in Charlotte. The number 11 ranked team will be getting a bye here and heading to New Orleans for the All-State Sugar Bowl. It will certainly be painted green as those fans are just going berserk over there in whatever the nickname for the city is. And onward we go to the number 12 seed and the 5th highest ranked conference champion throughout all of college football, and it is the Jayhawks of stinky old Lawrence, Kansas, as they get in, squeeze in. The 16th ranked team will be the 12th seed. So we have a few remaining teams. We still have yet to figure out who the number 2, the number 4, and 5 teams are, despite revealing 5 already. So let's move on and see who number 2 in the country is. It is the Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles, helmed by Coach Dale Jr., 10-2. Interesting choice by the committee here, as they have for the last few weeks, having them above the South Alabama Jaguars, despite a similar record, or a worse record arguably, and losing head-to-head. So certainly an interesting choice by the committee, but I'm sure the fans in Hattiesburg won't complain with that. Now let's move onward to the number 4 team in the country and the number 6 seed. It is the Marshall Thundering Herd, another 10-2 Sun Belt team. We have already seen 3 Sun Belt teams, and we're certainly ready to see a few more. Let's see who else we got at number 7. The Troy Trojans, falling in that Sun Belt Championship game to App State, going from 1 to 5, and they are in that dreaded 7-10 game that seems to always be a Sun Belt matchup, the way the committee has struck it out, I guess, in the last few years. So we'll see if Troy gets that Sun Belt matchup that's always in that 7-10, or if we'll get some fireworks with Marshall, or the 8-9 game. There's a whole lot in front of us. Speaking of 8-9, let's see who the 8 seed is. South Alabama, the Jags, the number 7 team in the country, 11-1 on the season, and still only all the way down at number 7. The committee not having much respect for head coach Deshaun McCringleberry and his crew, despite multiple recent national championships. Certainly a shocker from the committee, and one they've telegraphed throughout the year. A lot of questions raised as to how that adds up, and folks, I honestly don't think it does, but certainly a chip on the shoulder of those Jags, and if they defeat This next team we will reveal, they will be facing App State in the Capital One Orange Bowl. So the Jags' opponent to head to the Orange Bowl will be the SMU Ponies, the Pony Express. South Alabama luckily hosting that game against SMU, the number 8 team in the country and the number 9 seed in the playoff. Winner of that, as we stated, will head to the Orange Bowl to face Coach Bubba Gump in what could be a nice Sun Belt rematch. Looking ahead to the 10 seed, who will the Troy Trojans have to face? The Georgia Southern Eagles. These two teams, they don't like each other, folks, but they sure will battle it all out on the field. Troy handing it to Georgia Southern when they faced in the regular season, but they will get a nice rematch here, and the winner will move on to the Rose Bowl to face the Wisconsin Badgers. And that leaves us with 6 teams from the Sun Belt. We have App State, Southern Miss, Marshall, Troy, Georgia Southern, and South Alabama all in. And I'm sure Commissioner Violet is going just shaking hands and kissing babies over there, as she is certainly on top of the college football world. We have one more team left to reveal. The opponent of the Marshall Thundering Herd traveling to Marshall will be the North Carolina Tar Heels at 10-2. So here is our bracket, folks. We have quite a doozy, and we have a possibility of an all Sun Belt semifinal if these Sun Belt teams can take care of business in the first round and the quarterfinal. Certainly some tough competition ahead of us, but for us on FBTV, we're sure to see a lot of Fun Belt action that should be great to see. My goodness, folks, this is absolutely special. Some tough matchups, certainly in that bottom half of the bracket, but at least we don't have any Sun Belt triangles of death as we have had in prior years, and we hope to get some representation as we move along the bracket. I feel, looking at this, you got, I'd say, Marshall and Southern Miss certainly with the easier route. Southern Miss certainly with the easiest route, facing the number 16 team and the number 11 team to get to the semifinal. But it ain't over until it's over. You still gotta get the wins. But certainly Coach Dale Jr. has one hell of an easy route in front of him if he can handle business. But you never know how it goes, as it'll all end up in Indianapolis to decide it all for the national championship here in 2031. We also have a little bit of news for the Heisman winner here in 2031. And this year's Heisman Trophy honoree is Marvin Conley out of Southern Miss, the former quarterback converted to running back, and he has had one heck of a year getting it done both on the ground and catching it in the air. Quite the position change, quite the story coming out of Hattiesburg. Hot on Marvin's heels was Moses Boss from Troy, as well as Ben Batista from the lovely Georgia Southern Eagles. So a lot of Sun Belt running back representation, including, I believe, the Marshall running back getting a nod as well in the voting. So a lot of Sun Belt representation on the ground as they continue to show why they are the premier conference in college football. It is also important to note 0 SEC teams did make it into the playoffs. So Ole Miss, their last hope, fell in that conference title game, and they will not get a single team in 2031. So thank you, folks, for tuning into this special edition broadcast of the FBTV Conference Championship, the FBTV Reveal. And it's a pleasure to have you here, and we hope you stick around, and we'll have plenty of action to give to you throughout the coming weeks as we cover the 2031 college football playoffs. So we'll see you soon, and you know what to do, folks. Respect the belt.